Stretching your imagination late into the night from somewhere out there. I'm Alex Ansary. It's January 4th, 2017. Continuing on with our video series, I'm going to be expanding the late night podcasts. Many of them will have a theme such as this with regards to the true nature of this matrix. This is not the first time, nor will it be the last, that I have brought up the topic of disinformation in the New Age movement. I've talked extensively at what I believe are the differences between genuine spiritual teachings and recycled dogma, what I call external saviorship theology. We talk about hallmarks of identifying mainstream New Age theology. The alien rapture talks of an upgrade in DNA. Even, as we'll talk about tonight, endorsement of certain political figures promising that they are the one to take us to the ascension. That's what they promised us with Obama. And as you're going to hear tonight, and probably maybe the only one on YouTube to bring this to your attention, we're seeing the so-called Galactic Federation of Light / Ashtar Command endorsing Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Tonight we're going to get into it. And we're going to be focusing in the first part of our program. By the way, there'll be a 3-minute break, like most of our podcasts, which run about an hour. So if you want to listen and allow the video to continue playing, there's going to be several minutes of either music or commentary. You'll never know what it's going to be. I'm also open, by the way, to receiving royalty-free music or music made by the audience to play. You can even, treat it as a meditation, clean the palate in between the segments. But I want those that feel some sort of allegiance to this mainstream New Age thing to understand there are genuine spiritual teachings that are ancient that have nothing to do with the New Age. So if you associate your spiritual quest with the New Age, I think you're making a mistake, and I'm here to let you know that I'm not the only one that thinks you're making a mistake. There's also other themes of beliefs. 144,000, the idea of being one of the chosen as the world crumbles as they watch it from the spacecraft. The alien rapture, paralleling the Christian rapture. See, I believe that these belief systems in the end are damaging, and that when human beings are taught by other human beings, especially when they're influential on YouTube and otherwise and on the internet through their books, to reach out to these beings, even people like Stephen Greer, that aren't necessarily New Age, but talking about contact. And then, of course, we see the behavior of James Gilliland, literally claiming that in the physical, he's been on a Pleiadian ship. And so, over the years, when we see the fake predictions, and there was that wave in 1990, 1991, or that period, after the so-called beginning of the 1987 to 2012 period, I do believe there are shifts in energies. I don't believe that we're alone in the universe. So I want people to understand, they're listening, I come in peace. I have a deep interest in what is actually going on, and I do believe that there are angels, but I believe that there is a true creator that operates in a very different way than ways in which it's assumed. And I think that the real, genuine, archonic influence on our world has been overlooked by the New Age community. And where do they show it? By making these wild claims and spreading this disinformation to others that the Archons or the reptilians have been moved off planet. Now, they were saying this several years ago. And you'll notice in recent years, a lot of these websites that have been reposting the channeled messages of the supposed Ashtar Command or Galactic Federation of Light or other supposed saints or other deities. I just want to say, by connecting yourself with these deities, you're allowing themselves to accord with you. There is literally a host-parasite connection. I'm telling you the truth. And I think a lot of people that got involved in this stuff in the 80s and 90s and even the 2000s, they think they've moved on. They think they've moved on with their life, and they don't realize why they suffer from panic attacks, depression, or even that sense of, don't look over there or you'll start getting bad vibes. And so if some of these people are corded up with entities, and don't ask me how I know this, but I just feel that I do. And I'm sharing this knowledge with you. And I found others that I believe can see. And I've shared a lot of quality information over the years. So if some of these entities are cording up with these beings, they can make it very painful for them or those women when they start looking at certain bits of information. Or painful if they're, with someone that could give them good information. They could also reward and give pleasure to those that are serving their agenda in some way, shape, or form. Never forget that. Never forget that the God of this world, or the demiurge, can reward those for many, many years that engage in disinformation. We really are alive for only a short period of time, and a wealthy man cannot take his riches into heaven. So people have forgotten that, and they have come to the table of looking at the Archons in a very naive way. We are going to go over some Gnostic information later on. There's actually one web page that I did pull up. And so if you want to look into the Archons, there's something called the Nagamati. There is something known as the Sophiac myth. I've noticed there are aspects of the New Age community and also conspiracy research community that dabble in disinformation, fake news, fake prophecies, fake salvation. They might reference the Archons, but they don't really get into the real Gnostic information. Or they don't look into the spiritual teachings, the Gospel of St. Thomas. They don't look at, for example, the Gnostic version of Genesis, which I will share at the end of this podcast. A little bit of food for thought, literally. And I think that people should question why they're so quick to discount Gnostic teachings and the information that came from a group that was persecuted by the Catholic Church, Constantine specifically. And we have this Nagamati that was believed to be written in 480, discovered in 1945 by an Arab by the name of Muhammad Ali, and translated into English for the first time, according to one book that I read, or one report, in 1977. There's this whole story. It sounds like, something out of Indiana Jones. But I mean, apparently, and I'm going to look into this, the Egyptian government was all over this. I mean, there was this major, look, we got to get control over this and these books. This cannot be allowed. So there are people that talk about the Archons that are giving bad information, and I highly suspect that this is really coming from the Archons themselves. When you start claiming, and see, okay, here I have the articles before me, and by the way, a lot of disinformation is posted at beforeitsnews.com. So there is crossover in disinformation, fake news, in the New Age community, a lot of these spiritual websites, and certain alternative media websites. And so, believe it or not, in some individuals that are heavily involved in this, there is an angle of white supremacy, not with all. So, you talk about, the Great White Brotherhood. And then you see the disinformation about the false Islamic invasion. And you see the disinformation from John Lash and others, that the Archons in our world, that they're making a less white world. This is Archonic disinformation, trying to take you off the path to get you focused on the color of someone's skin or white genocide. That's about the flesh, or literally the clones of the Archons. There's something greater that you should be looking at. And especially with concerns about what's happening with human genetics. Oh, there's something going on. Let's look at it. Let's look at really what we're dealing with the talks of the new man by 2045, transhumanism and the Archons. While we have the ability to communicate with each other, let's take a real look at it and not discount technology replacing our relationships by design. As literally we read stories about people marrying their robots. Is this a collective shift in consciousness? Or is this evidence of something else? And are we on a linear level? Is it continuing in one particular direction? Or is this cyclical? Periods of more awakening, periods of more people going to sleep. And as someone that is literally made of the East and the West, I bring a yin-yang or yin-yang type of perspective where I do look at some things from both sides. And you're going to notice this. So before assuming that I'm coming at you from a particular angle, let alone religious or dogmatic. You know, I am looking at this from a very spiritual perspective, acknowledging this battle of good and evil, but looking at the world of ufology, the government, politics, apparently from a very different direction than what I call the disinformation coming from the so-called channels of the Galactic Federation of Light. And before some of you discount all these people as schizophrenics, for years there's been a certain level, and that's what's indicated to some people that it's true in their mind, but it's really been like an organized psyops to where many people have received similar messages and have written books or blogged where certain deities are literally voices in the head, are literally putting out a script. And when you see the script repeating itself, you could say it's wishful thinking. They were hoping that, they would get that message, like that poster, I want to believe. But it's like we're all getting those predictions, and they're all saying they're having those dreams. 1993, massive tidal waves. 2000, 2012, 2013. People that were friends of my mother, I was exposed to this. And I talk about this in other podcasts. I can sum it up in a minute or so. But from that period of 1984 to 1991, my mom took me along by force to a lot of Seattle New Age movements where they were literally talking about the alien rapture, and people, say, "Oh, your son's going to play a big role in this." Ashtar would be pleased. And there were people that were into that kind of stuff that I clearly identify to be disinformation, and it caused a massive rift. In my childhood, by rebelling against some of the things that my mother decided to wrap into her parenting. Wearing black is bad, my friends told me. Well, there's a lot of people out there that wear black, and it doesn't necessarily have a negative effect on them. Some could argue that, it could protect you. There's a strong primal power to it. That's not necessarily positive or negative. It's what you make out of it. So I saw a rise in some of the almost Western, linear, dogmatic with the external saviorship theology and weird trips to mountains to meet aliens. That in that period and many years later made me very uncomfortable. That my mother would be interested in taking me to meet the aliens or to hang out with people that had voices in their head. Like the old friend Carl, where we would talk about all these fake predictions that never happened in the late 90s. And so I think when you have people that are directly involved in things like that, you can even put your children on the radar, because I think that there is something steering those things. And they can use whatever form of technology the Archons have to see what type of souls are going to be threatening to them, and then watch them, track them in a way that some of you have never imagined, but we're talking about going on the Archon radar. And I think because of my soul's history and the things that I've done in past lifetimes, I came on their radar early on and was recognized. I remember the sleep paralysis, 1988, 1989. It's like, oh, I found you. There you are. And it felt personal. And I noticed that with my mother, as she got more involved in it, so did the yelling, so did the verbal abuse, so did the anger, the depression, mania, and other forms basically of mental illness combined with the verbal abuse. It was, and then the moving, constant changing of the hair. And I'm seeing that with women today, the constant changing of the hair. So it is sad that a male intuitive view is not welcome by what has become a very sexist world, where many women that have got involved in this have become very arrogant, that they're ascended goddesses. In reality, there's a lot of princess programming and not a lot of compassion for, say, the sacred masculine. If you look at my other content, you could see that I've spent most of my life putting myself out there. You know what that does? That brings a lot of psychic attack, especially when you do have some Middle Eastern blood and you're mixed with, say, a Germanic or Austrian line, of which I do. And now I see that as under attack and called white genocide. In case you didn't know, I am considered the poster child for that. But yet do I feel like I have special gifts that have been not recognized by a very racist and sexist culture, which is your culture. And sometimes I do call it white woman supremacy. And that is not racist or sexist. It's literally what I've experienced. First with my mother, and then later with women in Portland, and then on the internet. Very arrogant. Well, we have the answers. Well, we're having these dreams that are, well, tell me about these. Okay, interesting. Now I've heard decades and decades of people making these predictions and talking about these dreams of ascension by 2012 and 2013. And what have we actually seen our world turn into? Now I have other stories that I could share, but in a nutshell, that's where I'm coming from. A world of experience, and believing that this combination of genetics that I have has made me incredibly sensitive to what's actually going on in the spiritual warfare politics, or the politics of spiritual warfare. And it has now become like my number one topic. It is who I am. It defines this channel. I have faced all kinds of persecution. We're going to get into our topic shortly, but in concluding this introduction, there's no going back for me now. Now that I've been discussing the Archons for 3 or 4 years. First comes the energy backlash, then comes survival. And this is really about helping many of you unplug, because you shouldn't have a parasite feeding on you and making you afraid and leading you in these different directions or these false hopes. I want to help you ground. I want to help you heal. I want to help you see the deception. So let us begin. I am going to discuss this. I'm going to work on bringing this up. This is December 16th, 2016. What I am going to read you, more than likely that has come to us through human hosts that are running websites, is information in reality from the Archons, disinformation that has been embedded within what we call the mainstream New Age movement. And this is called Project Starquake, which is very bizarre. And I'm reading it for the first time because I was going to talk to you more about how I believe Stargate SG-1 has a little bit of truth in it, but also a lot of bit of disinformation to make the government CERN projects and potential Stargate activities, teleportation technologies, look like it's doing it for the better good of all, and not something else. And Stargate really even being a metaphor for the New Age community trying to open up the portals and put their minds together and giving energy to allow these things to come in during certain dates and periods without realizing what they're applying their human energy to letting come in the doorway. Little piggy, let me in. So from Stargate and the symbolism there to Project Starquake. Major galactic update, it reads. The Pleiadian Andromedan High Councils of the Galactic Federation lead efforts to liberate planet Earth. Project Starquake deployed. Military terminology, and as we see Ashtar in other depictions, he's wearing a military outfit. Constant references to galactic. This happens to be all in caps. Earth date December 25th, 2016. Oh, it's from Archangel Michael. Gamma wave pulse will completely destroy all parasite Archons hiding in Earth's galaxy. Mission status deployed. Earth impact. References to space weapons, really. The Pleiadian Andromedan High Councils of the Galactic Federation lead efforts to liberate planet Earth. Project Stargate deployed. I don't know what's going on here, but the page that I'm reading from Rose Rambles, it's repeating itself. And then it starts going in, the war in heaven now comes to its end. And this is a fairly long article. This is a medium-channeled spiritual writing combined with excerpts from factual science and space news! Explanation mark. Again, this is all in caps. This article is not a news story. We encourage each reader to do their own research and spiritual seeking to find the truth. We promote peace, love, freedom, abundance, and goodness for all beings of the earth, great beings of light. As commander of the heavenly armies and a member of the etheric intelligent civilization, it is my duty and privilege to bring tidings to all beings of earth. Again, this is supposedly from Archangel Michael. That many humans, millions on the earth, blindly have faith in these repostings and typings on the internet that seem to have a coordinated worldwide effort. And we see the rise of the Ashtar movement, which I talked about in a previous video, after the 1950s with a bizarre Ashtar Voltron style message that came into UK airwaves in 1977. So it says, it was given to me, this information, by the Guardians of Earth, known as the Larian Universal High Council of Pleroma, the cosmic human ancestors of all the human races in our galaxy, in conjunction with Pleiadian Andromedan mission. Okay, it goes on. So for a lot of people that are into the ET thing, and I don't think that we're alone, in their minds, they figured out who's bad and who's good. You have reptilians over here, which have been moved off the planet, and then you have the Pleiadians, which are often featured as the perfect beings with perfect blue eyes and blonde hair in many cases, happening to occur at a time in which people are obsessing on white genocide, which really seems to be an Archon soul harvesting program to create hatred and a sense of racial superiority, or a God seed versus a demon seed. It's just like out of the Book of Mormon, and it's happening now in the mainstream New Age movement. And I'm making this video to help a lot of women that are being courted by these entities that are being conditioned to be afraid, and to give, as we'll get into later, worship and energy to some of these beings and or politicians that they are told that are here to bring balance. So it writes on, the Pleiadian High Commander of Galactic Federation Peace Operations gave the order to me to instruct a group of benevolent Anunnaki. Benevolent? Okay, so this is where a lot of people are getting their fake information that the Anunnaki, some of them are benevolent. Again, our creators, ancient aliens. Yes, it's all connecting. A parallel with the fake news in the New Age movement and ancient aliens, that the Anunnaki are our gods and taken away the true God. Yes. Continuing. A group of benevolent Anunnaki technologists stationed in the Sagittarius system to deploy an extremely high-powered galactic EMP to be fired into the Milwaukee. Okay, again, more military, direct military physical technology. So these high-powered beings literally are using EMP. Dear Lord, I'm glad I decided to do this podcast. And it goes on, stream for the consolation to the living earth, sun, and moon, for the sole purpose of clearing all archontic fractal parasites out of the Milky Way galaxy. And just to let you know, I use the term archonic, not archontic. 12 years ago, it reads, on December 27, 2004, the Earth was rocked by a cosmic blast so epic its scale was nearly impossible to exaggerate. This was the beginning of a cosmic mission that sounds like science fiction. You know why they don't talk about the Afghans and the Middle Eastern genocide, these New Agers? Again, it's that programming, that it's their karma. That's why. If these people were literally coming in love and light, they would be literally horrified. They would be talking about the depleted uranium. They wouldn't be saying, well, every couple of years, well, the aliens come in and they intervene. Well, no, we read about it on beforeitsnews.com. They're coming, they're intervening, and they're cleaning up the atmosphere. They're helping us evolve. Completely absolving themselves of self-responsibility for their actions and their thoughts, furthering their cord connection with the parasite. By the way, in Portland, I met a woman who believed that the Pleiadians told her to move from LA to Portland. And this massive exodus at certain areas into Portland has created massive homelessness. And a lot of people moved to Portland and found a city that was not what they thought. And what was I saying? They're being led there to be parasited on. Their feminine energy, it comes out, it blooms a little bit. There's a strong sexual energy, and it's yum time for the entities and the Archons that rotate positions of the energy harvesting in Portland. But the energy harvesting does not just take place in Portland. That's a place I know very well. And I first actually began to become familiar with the term Archon, although I've spoken about it for years. You also could think of the Eye of Sauron in Lord of the Rings. You can think of Dark City, the movie. You could think of Agent Smith and what that represents in the Matrix. The Archons in Gnostic lore has been in sci-fi over and over and over again. The Archons are even represented in They Live. It's not a great stretch of the imagination. But see, this is using military technology and giving fake history. The enormous wave of energy in 2004 was so powerful, it ionized the upper atmosphere. See, there are things going on with the magnetic field and the sun, and I have a 1-hour presentation about that. So what this is mind control using buzzwords, because people know something is going on with the sun and the magnetic field. So they see the article referencing it and they go, well, this must be it. This is the energy shift. Well, in 2004, we had the Venus transit. That is the energy shift that I've referred to. We also went from solar maximum to solar minimum. And in my 1-hour lecture at the Mark Passio For Your Mind conference, just type in my name and the solar maximum and find that 1-hour presentation, you'll understand what I'm getting at without getting into it now. So we've been going through energy cycles, and I've also talked about how during the solar maximum period, I believe that a veil is thinner. And instead of, these people having a little bit of discernment, they've been working to open up portals and say the reptilians and Archons have moved off planet. Quite the opposite. In fact, they've been more active than ever since 2009, 2010, in my opinion. Like Stargate SG-1 with the ghoul invasion in the first section. And I'm not big into sci-fi, but I watched it for entertainment. Wow, There's things you can learn about the Archons in things like SG1 and the Ghoul, what they represent. So they're speaking repeatedly about advanced Anunnaki technology building this association. The magnetic field of this compacted energy mass is a quadrillion times stronger than that of the Earth. That makes and then they have like 1 0 or the number 1, then a whole lot of zeros. So they're just bombarding the reader with caps with scientific words, whoever wrote this. The blast of energy fired from one Anunnaki flagship Gamma sheath at the speed of light surged away from the ship pulse out into the galaxy just 200 milliseconds. Back in the late 80s, during one of these road trips to Seattle with my mother, and again, the more she got into it, the angrier she got. Was also something that I want to specify. And so continuing on, and it wasn't like a peaceful, lovey-lovey, although, some of the potlucks or what, but it was just like it wasn't really, in my opinion, causing any spiritual experience, really devoid. But I remember that they were playing videotapes, and they were like, yeah, there's a space war going on between this group and that group, and it's a leaked NASA tape. Well, NASA, there's a lot of things that have been doctored, a lot of things that are counterfeit from NASA. So we talk about Project Bluebeam. This has been going on for some time, these supposed leaked tapes of the alien wars. I don't believe we're alone in the universe, but the way that they are actually transporting you on this planet is not in the visible realm. A lot of stuff that's physical, and this is a bigger subject, but a lot of you are already caught to speed, is likely government and or their involvement with the Greys, the government projects, also known as My Lab. And so there are some things that may be happening in conjunction with the shadow government, or things that are just beyond. And that stuff is not gone. That stuff is still going on. And there are cycles. I believe there are cycles with the cattle mutilations in times and places, like the late 70s into the 80s, where they're doing their thing. Maybe a doorway is open. Maybe they only have a few years up until 81, 82. I don't know. But I think that we can look back and see that there was a major abduction wave right before this massive New Age movement. Was there some sort of massive etheric implant operation taking place? Does this connect with Eisenhower and the supposed alleged deals with the aliens for biological specimens? I don't know that. I don't know that. But what I do feel is that some sort of doorway has been opened. This has been something that people have warned you about. It hasn't just come in from the Christian right. I don't see them really warning about shit, but just getting down and worshiping the next leader. But it is known, at least to ghost hunters, that the veil is thinner during the sunspots and solar flares. We know that it's energy. We know that it's electromagnetic energy. We know that we've seen videos of UFOs going in and out of the sun. We know that there are scientific articles about portals of energy going from the sun to the earth. Portals of energy going from the sun to the earth. I think that the sun is a doorway or a gateway to another world, but it's many things that live off the sun and use it for transport, including a variety of souls. There's something powerful to learn about the sun. And there is disinformation about the sun, and they want to take you and get you thinking about galactic center and not the real sun that's actually there, and get you literally looking at this false thing. No, not galactic center, and this theory put out by Alfred Weber, who's promoting literally the ascension of the earth in 2025. After, of course, no accountability for this false prediction nonsense of Andrew Basiago, fake time traveler, being the president in 2016. See, so there are people out there that seem to be knowingly taking advantage of others, and then some of them might be seated. Oh, they think they're star seeds. Beware of those that call themselves in love and light star seeds and the crystal children, because I don't think the awareness comes that way with that level of ego and claiming you're one of the 144,000. In fact, those are the ones that you need to be wary of, and I'll actually recommend you take notes of the nonsense that they're saying, because in doing so, we're getting deeper into the mind of the Archons. And so if they're saying one thing, it's the opposite. We can get a deeper look at what the Archons want us to believe by taking a closer look at this disinformation in the New Age media and the people involved, the human hosts. What they're doing is wrong. And I don't believe that I stand alone. There are people of different backgrounds and faiths, from Gnostic to Christian to atheists, that are involved in some way, shape, or form in exposing this. But there's not enough. I'm going to mention a few more things, then we'll get ready for a break for those that needed to go to the restroom or whatnot. So again, it's talking about a Stargate, and it is referencing all of these things. Michelle Walling had someone on that put out some disinformation using stuff that could have been plagiarized from my own lecture about the solar flare influence over human consciousness. His name was Simon. And he talked about a wave X of October 2015 that would change the whole world forever. October 2015. All we saw was a major solar flare. And again, business as usual. Solar flares, rise in false flags. No, but you're not going to get that information from Archangel Michael. Yes, there are false flags during solar flares. And you are listening to the only man that has pushed forward this theory, that the dark occult knows when they can use the power of the sun to their benefit. Now, I also talk about how we might be able to use it to our benefit, but we have to keep the focus on what's real and not go off into the archangels or the galactic center, and stay with the power of the sun and not a black hole sun. This continues. The Anunnaki are some of the most advanced technicians in the universe, and in recent years have had a change of heart. What? Becoming pure benevolent light beings, as they have transmuted what they did to begin all the trouble on Earth 350,000 years ago. And I remember it was Truth Frequency Radio, and that guy has caused a lot of has done a lot of mean things to other people in the alternative media. Chris Geo, who gets into a lot of this stuff, and my brief conversations with him in 2013, like, oh, this guy's on the dark side. And I remember actually trying to talk to him about grounding himself and giving him a 5-minute tutorial, and I can go over it again. I cover it past videos, the grounding, the as above, so below, the earth and cosmic energy, and clearing out your blocked chakras, and clearing out the foreign energy, and clearing out your head. So I talked with him for about 2 minutes, but I can feel energy backlash even when I get into this stuff. And Cameron Day from Ascension Help, he's put out some good stuff. He's talked about this as well. That's why but see, I'm on the radar all the time now, doing videos all day long. So I am having to become a lot more powerful, etherically, if you will. But I remember him writing an article about him taking, it wasn't DMT, or was it? It was ayahuasca. And then meeting the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki coming into his mind, and then him seeing that they were good. And I think that a lot of people that get deep into LSD and ayahuasca in some cases are deceived. I can't say for all. It seems like this is a potential pattern, and for some reason, the universe has guided certain psychedelic experiences to me. Never that. And I see people that got into that in certain things, and I think they've opened themselves up in a way, and they become very trusting of this female deity. And David Icke has his own story. David Icke, I think that he's done brilliant work, just so you know this. But with regards to the Son of Man dialogue, which we cannot deny, he did go through a period where he was manic, that he was like all that. And he makes excuses for that, but the fact that David Icke is associated with Alex Jones, being that Alex Jones is clearly archonic, which I get into in the Alex Jones Deception series. And the missing money from the people's voice. The man that I thought was very intuitive and protected and spiritual. In fact, very good writer, very good speaker. Agree with a great deal of what he's written about. Has he been immune himself to the Archons for whatever reason? Whatever that is? No, he hasn't. So, and he has addressed the Archons. But the people's voice situation, you know, where the few people that he trusted turned around and backstabbed him, and all of a sudden there's missing millions. So much for being abnormally aware. What I'm saying is, when you get involved in talking about these things, and I'm not beating up David Icke, but now that I remember, I'm going to say the guy also predicted that 2016 was the year of the great change. And great, is that what we're supposed to interpret from the election of Donald Trump? How many of you actually believe that? Sadly, a certain amount do, that are involved in the channeling community. And some do not. that may be considered leftist, and I don't say that to be derogatory, although some do. It's very sad to see this divide in our country, but is this the sign of a collective shift in consciousness? Be honest with me now. Be honest with me now. And have these messages not for years been sending you in a certain direction? I'm going to go back and I'm not going to read all of this, but the links will be down below. Again, from the supposed Archangel Michael. An important side note, the creator of the Archons, Sophia, the female embodiment of God of Pleorma, recently gave the command directly to destroy her aborted, demonic, etheric children for good. Okay, so if you look around on the internet, you can see that this same line has been posted and reposted and reposted. This cosmic, top secret, declassified military data, going back because the page jumped, and there's more here than I thought. So it continues with more of the Galaxy flagship X-Ray 2, mixing technical talk with Archons, using the word energetic quite often, transmit, humanity, evolutionary, transduction, Anunnaki, starquake, over and over, programming, Earth, Sun, Moon, today, December 21st, gamma ray, continuing archonic parasites, dissolve from the human mind. They're gone. They're gone. We're saved. Millions of third wave unconscious humans will wake up from being literally possessed for their entire lives. They literally hijack the idea of Archon mind virus without denying it. Jump in and they catch you going, people are waking up to the Archons. Now we have to put out disinformation about the Archons being removed off the planet. You see how this works? Earth changes. There are going to be some strong upcoming Earth changes throughout this, and many beings will leave the human body as they cannot endure this rapid transformation. Know that each being has already made a choice on a subconscious level to do this. What are they talking about? And we know by experience there is no death. We are immortally alive. The beings that leave the body will receive some angelic, angelic assistance in the astral city. Well, they can shortcut their, you mean the astral jail. Fuck. See, if they can get some people to also off themselves, I think that traps you in the Archon world. I truly do. And I've seen some people get lost by some of the beliefs. Well, if you can off yourself during time where you accomplished a lot. Michael Rupert offered himself because his prophecy of Pequod didn't come fast enough. And it's very sad to see someone that banks so much on a prediction only to respond to, from being off grid in Colorado, not too far from where I was, for 100 miles away. He was in Crestone. I was in Costilla County, Colorado, to go back to Seattle within a month of me going back to Portland. And I was stuck living in my vehicle for a year till I got out of there in a city during the housing crisis, even though I was on Access TV for a decade talking about all these things in the New World Order, only to see, the archonic influence, in my opinion, over the city and what all this is really about and how people really treat each other and how they really treat the poor during hard times because of assumptions. And yet we're told that this possession is gone, that everything is just fixed. How many people are actually believing this? And it continues. And they use the word matrix power grid at the directive of the High Council. High Council comes up a lot. Power grid outage of Earth will be fully orchestrated by the transforming Anunnaki light beings and their entourage passing overhead. This matrix shutdown is still in store. See, this is actually concerning me about an almost physical alien invasion. I mean, this type of blind trust. And I've been trying to find the miniseries 2009 remake. There's only in the 80s version that I can find. I can only find trailers. So let me know down below. But I think that we see also a strong parallel between the Galactic Federation of Light and the plot from the miniseries, the remake. Okay, so they talk about, this is predictive programming really for the grid to go out. And it's good because it's a reset. In a way, I've talked about this, but this is something different. As we said, most of humanity is currently infected by etheric archons, and most will be shaken out of their trance right before the new year of planet Earth. Okay, now we're at January 4th, 2017. And I was massively trolled in recent days, talking about, the sickness of the white genocide hysteria. And as someone of both Afghan and Germanic descent, of one of the few, and being born in 1980, the cruelty of this world, who knows why I reincarnated and chose this particular combination of bloodlines. But I'll tell you now, I'm the only seer, speaker, YouTuber, writer of both sides of the family. Why is there this archonic white genocide meme? Am I supposed to hate myself? And yet it's baiting the New Agers into it. Because I've seen firsthand what it did to my mother and others, and the fear. And once they're courted, and they're putting down that fear, they can literally, what they think is their intuition, voices in the head, that person's bad. Turn that off. Alex is bad. Alex is bad. Alex is bad. Alex is no good. And the truth of the matter is, this is happening across the planet with Archons, disrupting relationships and families. You're looking at some of the most hardcore alien propaganda. You're listening to it. I have never, what I'm reading, but you're getting a very strong dose of truth from myself. And I don't know, let me know in the comment section, is anyone else on Earth even exposing this archonic influence over the supported channel movement? Let me know, because I don't know what's going on. My audience is small, but I'm the only person talking about a number of different topics, and I'm glad I'm taking the time to do these podcasts. And I think that some of you should take this really seriously and even assist me in some research projects. I think that we need to educate as many people from the ground up, and that is where the real ascension is to take place, the real ground crew. We're not going to send out of the body. This is about doing what we came here to do. And I even think that we're fragmented souls of a guardian of the earth archetype, and a lot of this is misdirection. It is serious misdirection. It also reads, this final photon light wave will herald the completion of the human ascension program dubbed Project Freedom Earth. Project Freedom, Project Iraqi Freedom. See, Project Freedom Earth, the military terms, again and again and again. These Archons have murdered, raped, and stolen every ounce of human energy on the planet. That's a statement. That's a very negative statement for a New Ager to make. They all also hidden it. See, this is disinformation. Any New Ager who's all about focusing on the positive would see that and go, well, they haven't taken every bit of ounce of energy from me. And so if someone's saying they want to be all positive and whatnot, it's like, and then again, you need to see the fake news that goes along with this. Be afraid of the Babylonian seed. Be afraid of the Babylonian seed. White supremacy is calling you. White genocide, white genocide. And then you see people like John Lash and others, even Linda West of Morning Mayan on YouTube, insulting my videos recently, trolling me for the first time in history. I do a video on technology replacing human relationships, and that's part of the Archon plan. So I'm getting involved in the divide, and I should be blaming the Muslims. That's sick. And this is a person that gives readings. You need to be aware that the infection of a lot of the New Age speakers is taking place in a particular way. We can even look at a certain man by the name of Leonard Horowitz, but that's another conversation. Godspeed, says the report in the end, and freedom of the children of light who dwell with Sophia, who is Gaia. Gaia is also used by the United Nations, and what you should know about the New Age movement in the United Nations is in 2003, there was a group called the Aquarian Foundation, and out of curiosity, I went in there during an early period in seeking. And I got involved in the alternative media like a year and a half later. They were listening to tapes where he was supposedly channeling Kumara or Saint Germain. And the guy's name was Kumara, who was a bit of a fraud who claimed to manifest crystals out of his mouth. And they were directing energy towards the United Nations. And it was during that time that I started to learn about what the United Nations actually is. And I'm seeing consistent pattern with this New Age fake news co-op to pray for and give energy to the United Nations. But it's like all this stuff is supposed to work on are gullible people. Because if they're endorsing Donald Trump, as we'll get into shortly, and Putin, well, they're against the United Nations, or at least Trump is. They're talking about defunding the United Nations. So how do you go from giving your energy to Trump and the United Nations? It's just like redirecting your energy, because your energy is that friggin' powerful. Let's do something really powerful with our energy and not fall for this nonsense. I was in detention once at the age of 11, 12 years old. I decided I would open up a large dictionary Synchronicity was with me that day, and I put my finger on a word, and that would be the word of my superhero name, and it was the insusceptible. And if you've never heard of this, Google it. So this now completes this particular article. It says, credits, source intelligence and all universal spiritual hierarchy. It also credits Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. It also credits inside military sources. It also credits NASA, the European Space Agency, NSSDP, Soviet Interplanetary Space Program, University of California, Berkeley, Allied Powers, just Allied Powers, professional and amateur astronomers, thousands scientists, and those in the know. Archangel Michael, the end of the Archons, this is another one. And this is on Project New Earth, and this is basically what was put out about a month ago. So it was great beams of light. It was given to me, this information, by the high councils of the Galactic Federation of Angels assigned to Earth. The female head of the Galactic Federation, the Queen Bee, has ordered the deployment of an extremely high-powered galactic EMP to be fired into our solar system in exactly 10 days. A goddess. Archon goddess, reptilian goddess, ghoul, Stargate SG-1. What is going on here? Ordered EMP, predictive programming technology. Okay, so we're being programmed to believe that the Anunnaki are benevolent, that the Archons are gone, and that the Anunnaki is good now. They are our saviors. And it goes on with other things. It starts citing Nibiru. Great earth changes are in store, and a massive power outage will occur during this winter. Okay. Most of humanity is infected and will be shaken out of their trance right before the new year. And it continues. And it actually put a lot of focus on the state of 12/26/2016. Commander of the heavenly armies, Archangel Michael. Okay, we will now pause, and we will play a little bit of music. We will come back, and we will get to do part 2. Stay with me. And welcome back. This is part 2 of our discussion on disinformation in the New Age movement. I'm also discussing how there is a dovetail. It's really a networking to also fake political conspiracy disinformation. And so you see things that are incredibly terrifying and fear-mongering, and then you see the other reports saying that a great disaster was averted. So it almost has a MK Ultra type of trauma-based mind control. You're traumatized and then you're rescued. You're traumatized and then you're rescued. You're traumatized and then you're rescued. And in some people's minds, they almost face the end multiple times. And the Western mind is linear. A lot of these so-called spiritual women and spiritual men, but in particular in our culture, is very Western, very linear. And so they haven't really started to understand the cycles nor the solar impact. Like I said, it's almost as if they have a bug in their ear, hypnosis, power of some form of suggestion to take the focus away from the sun to a theory about everything fixing itself 26,000 year cycle to galactic center, something hypothetical that came from the channeled messages. Now, what are some of the political disinformation? The top you see beforeitsnews.com, One Stop Shopping Depot. You see Benjamin Fulford, who's one of the greatest disinformation artists. How many times have you heard that guy talk, about the Illuminati? They're going to be arrested. The banker is going to be arrested. How often do you see things like this? And are you hearing about Anna von Ritz, who is a fake judge? That's right. Not only is there fake news and fake channelers, you have a fake judge movement that my friend Kyle Reardon has written about. And I actually met one of them at one point. His name is Bruce Doucette. And it appeared to be a federal operation in Costilla County where these people came, we're Continental Congress, United States of Common Law. We're going to have a grand jury and arrest public officials. Fake. To what? Co-opt. Did it work? No. Did we expose it? Yes. So it seems like just another drop in the bucket for me exposing things that are fake in the physical and non-physical world, or the non-physical archonic influence over things on our planet. Now, and I talked about in a recent video, subscribe if you're new, some of the most obvious ways we see the real archonic influence in our world, how it's still here, and it's the race baiting. Trying to convince you that people like me are babies that may be born with the same exact Germanic Afghan combination, that it's a virus, that it literally is the end of the world. And I'm not going to be afraid to tell you that it just happens to be that I happen to be of a line that they are actually demonizing to be of the worst combination ever. And yet I find myself one of the few on the planet discussing what I'm discussing about solar flares, warning you about what I see with regards to the Chinese military in our country in the 2025 period. And then discussing other things, as well as discussing off-grid living and its connection to spirituality, reconnecting with nature in the day and age of the machine, not just being another person online all the time. And I believe that I've also been rewarded, if you will, in some. I don't have everything that I want, but I have everything that I need, and I've been protected. And I've been protected by such a degree that I've even seen it provoke jealousy in others and denial, even in my mother. And I saw the spiritual hierarchy, as I said, and the sexism about women being intuitive. And then after all these years, seeing the demographic of women on Facebook that have reposted fake news without even realizing that NBCnews.co, for example, is not the same thing as NBC News. You can start a website and add a few letters, and all of a sudden, boom, you can duplicate it if you know what you're doing and make it look like a real website. And so the last few years, and I was talking about the fake news before others. So I believe that I have been gifted with a certain level of intuition regarding future events. And I think that if you looked at my track record and you looked at the things that I talked about, you would see that I talked about fake news before it was news. And there is a real form of fake news that's out there that you may have seen on like a Davidite group on Facebook saying that the Islamists are coming to rape you. Like really barbaric stuff. Now, are you being warned about this? Are they talking about the repercussions of the million dead? No. They're being removed off planet. They're somewhere else. They're an ascension being. But you don't really hear about the people of the Middle East. You constantly hear about this Brotherhood of Light, and now this crossover between the white genocide hysteria and this disinformation in the New Age movement. And the most popular speaker on the Archons says that white genocide is a product of Archons, and his name is John Lash. Wow. I mean, for me, it's a big, big deal to see that. And to know that I've been up to James Gillen's place several times, and to pick up on the vibes regarding him, his agenda with women, and to be told certain things about some of his actions, his agenda. And it's like, there are a lot of... Eve Lorgan does talk about people being duped into the wrong relationships on part of the Archons or other spiritual parasites. And I think this is also in the same way that people are led to counterfeit spiritual teachings. We have a number of things that I opened up here, but I can't read it all. But I can read you what I intended to read in part 2. We've been watching a scripted American election, says this particular one. And so it starts out with the conspiracy one, and this is supposedly from Saint Germain, and they constantly call Jesus Sananda. And I'll notice called Christ Jesus. So it's not real Gnostic stuff. It's like Archon inverted, and the Archons are known for that. They invert things, they invert words, they move things around to impersonate the real light. It says that Trump and Putin are booties. Trump and Putin are buddies. There's like a number of things here, supposedly written by Saint Germain. It says also, now let this one sink in. It's a doozy. Trump and Putin are buddies, and Putin is a galactic walk-in. And for those of you that don't know, a walk-in is believed to be like a powerful spiritual being, like an ascended master. So on beforeitsnews.com, in this supposed channel message, it is saying that Putin is a galactic walk-in. Now hang on to that idea for a while, because there are women out there like Linda West and others that believe that. My mother, others. Putin is here to bring balance. They don't see the sickness in Russia. They won't address Russia's past or the gang rape of the German women in 1945 when Berlin fell. They live in this fantasy world of Star Wars, yet they have it really fucked up where the good side is and where the dark side is. And they do a really good job of calling the men trying to warn them dark and evil and negative, and they just don't get it. While the men that they do give time and energy to in some cases are monsters. It's part of that love bite. See a lot of women that have given their energy to men that are actually doing destructive things on the planet. In this case with Trump and Putin, literal, as there's a genocide in Syria. I think there is something to white supremacy in the United States and Russia linking together and warring on the Middle East. And the Archonic agenda to create new humans on the planet and to eradicate these souls off the planet and to co-opt the mainstream New Age movement. Is this starting to make sense to you? This continues. Trump is likely aligned with the Galactics if he is buddy with Ashtar Command walk-in Putin. So they're still using the term Ashtar Command. Trump is a human played by the soul of Saint Germain. Putin and Trump likely know that this election is fake and a true election is to come. Saint Germain was there at the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and it goes on to give this fake history of Saint Germain. I am going to be wrapping things up here, but I would recommend that you listen to the other teachings of Jesus Christ on this YouTube channel, the Gospel of St. Thomas. Take a look at what I talked about 3 years ago at the age of 33 while living off-grid for the first time in a very special place. I don't deny the concept of magnetic fields and ley lines and things of that nature. In fact, I think it's all very, very real. And so in no way am I not a spiritual person, but spiritual can encompass both the light and the dark, or the false light. And I think in these mainstream spiritual communities, many people have been led astray. Instead of actually look at the Archons, instead of look at the Nagamati, there is massive deception. I will speak in the future with regards to the Nagamati, with regards to the Garden of Eden. But just as a primer, the Archon, the demiurge in the Nagamati, is the equivalent of the Old Testament God or Creator. In the Quran, in the Old Testament, in the Torah, there shall be no other but me. And so, according to Gnostic lore, a lot of these mainstream religions have been following a fake deity. And the New Age movement, a lot of people ran away, thought they were running away from this fake deity, this angry God, and they actually ran into the arms of another manifestation of the Archons. This wasn't easy to see in the 80s when there was so much hope and people, oh, let's contact, oh, contact. And now I think the proof is in the pudding as to what kind of world we turned into, and whether or not these people actually got truthful information or not, and whether or not there's actually been a collective shift in consciousness. Let's be honest with ourselves. I'm going to come back bringing you more readings, more commentary, more modern Gnostic perspectives on this global spiritual conspiracy, on this soul prison that we live on. I'm Alex Ansary. This concludes our New Age fake news episode concerning this disinformation that the Archons have been removed off the planet. Quite the opposite. I believe that we have been seeing an invasion in reality.